Welcome to another Places of Interest adventure with Getting Lost. Today, we are starting our Bridges of the Singapore River adventure. Singapore River, this is where it all started, and it is still quite a historic place, and there's a lot of things to explore. So let's get to it. Let's go! On this site, it is said that Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles first landed in Singapore on the 28th of January 1819 and established a British trading outpost here. It is also said before that a Sumatran prince named Sang Nilai Utama landed along a river and saw an animal he thought to be a lion and named this place Singapura, or in English, Lion City. It is also said before that this place used to be an ancient fishing village called Temasek. But what is important now is that this is the Singapore River. As you look across the water, you will notice that a lot of buildings are around this area here. For you to notice that actually the Marina Bay Financial Center area and also the buildings over there were actually built on reclaimed land, and previously this place, this marina reservoir, is actually opened up to the sea, and this building here, which is called Clifford Pier, used to be a busy pier where even until the British time previously, when the British was in charge, Singapore was actually under the Crown, they actually, ships actually docked there, and then ferries used to bring people in from the ships, and this whole area here was all opened up to the sea, and ships would put anchor out in the sea, and then ships and ferries and bumboats would go and carry the cargo in and bring it into the Singapore River. And because Singapore River was actually the original old port of Singapore, the mouth of the river, and this is some of the refurbished bumboats that used to ply its trade around the Singapore River. Okay. So we're actually heading towards the mouth of the Singapore River. This is a very picturesque location where many tourists do come and take pictures here. So this is the Merlion, which is actually a mystical creature that actually doesn't exist. It's actually created for some campaign previously, but it's not really a real life mythical creature. Let's start with the first bridge across the Singapore, at the mouth of the Singapore River, which is this bridge you see here. It's called the Jubilee Bridge. This Jubilee Bridge was actually a bridge created very recently. I think that one of the earliest bridge, which was created in 2015 as a pedestrian crossing from people who want to go from the Merlion Park to the promenade as the Esplanade. Okay, so it was actually that was because people used to cross over using this bridge, which is called the Esplanade Bridge, which was built in 1997. Okay, this bridge itself, because mainly used as a vehicular bridge, and has a very narrow pedestrian crossings. Because of that, they created the Jubilee Bridge, and this Esplanade Bridge which is a very popular place to hide from the sun. As you can see, it was created because there was too much of a build-up of traffic on the Anderson Bridge, which we'll see later. And this bridge, this is the Anderson Bridge. For your information, this is actually the original location of the Merlion. It was actually moved to its present location due to the building of the Esplanade Bridge, which actually blocks some of the scenic view of the Merlion. Okay, so this is the Esplanade Bridge. It actually handles the traffic that's coming from Raffles Place towards the City Hall and Suntec City area. Okay, and over here you can see one of the refurbished bumboats that's actually ferrying tourists on river tours along the Singapore River. And after that, it's actually a park. This is actually called Esplanade Park, or previously it was actually named Queen Elizabeth Walk. And here is the Anderson Bridge. Okay, but before we talk about the Anderson Bridge, I want to talk more about the importance of the bridges along the Singapore River. Previously, before there were bridges, okay, as you can to cross the river, you wouldn't have been able to walk across. So as you can see, I'm actually on the governmental side of the river, which is called the South Bank, which houses the courthouses, the office, the old government buildings. And opposite the river is all the shop houses or the commercial buildings. So before the bridges, you couldn't actually go across the river easily. You will need to hire these things called tonies, which are actually run by Indian operators who actually something like rowboats or sampan in Malay that actually help to row you across the river. They actually did some, bustling business, doing this business of rowing people across. That was before the bridges were built. And after the bridges was built, as with today, it's much easier to actually go across the river. So before we go, let me just show you some of the prominent buildings in the area. And one of the buildings or landmark we'll be looking at today will be this building called Fullerton Building. Fullerton Building actually sits on the site of the former Fort Fullerton. Fort Fullerton was actually a fort that was built on the mouth of the river to actually protect the port. It was rumored to be built around 1829, but was demolished to make way for this building here. And this building was actually opened in 1928, and it housed the General Post Office of Singapore. And over the years, it also housed various important governmental offices. And in the Fullerton's building's latest incarnation, it has been refurbished to become the Fullerton Hotel. And it stands as a reminder and a monument of a time past. The next interesting place we'll be looking at is called the Waterboat House, which is actually an Art Deco building that you see here. Basically, it used to be the master attendant's office, where the master attendant would actually supervise all the water activities at the port. And later, subsequently, it became a water office, where it was used to actually supply fresh water to incoming ships. Furthermore, if you go to the third floor, you can actually have a view of the whole port, and also any incoming and outgoing vessels. So the location of this building is actually quite good, in the sense that it gives you a wide view of everything that you need to see. So in the past, the master attendant would actually sit over here and have a nice broad view of the port. Next is another interesting place called Clifford Pier. It is also another Art Deco design building, as you can see here. This place is called Clifford Pier. It was built to replace another pier that was called Johnson's Pier. Okay, and he also inherited the nickname of the Johnson's Pier, which is called Red Light Pier. Okay, which I will explain why later. Basically, what happened is, on the pier itself, at the edge of the pier, they actually have lamps which are actually red in color, so that incoming ships will recognize the port by the lamps, and so that's why they call it the Red Lamp Pier. Okay, so this place was actually a key landing and departure point for sea travelers, and many passengers actually would have coming by ship, alight the ship onto rowing boats, and the rowing boats would actually ferry them to this pier. And this was also a very important landing point for a lot of the immigrants, Chinese and Indians, and they came into the region. And also you can see here, there's also some pillars here that looks quite modern. That is because until 2006, this was actually still a working pier, which actually provided ferry services from here to some of the outlying islands around Singapore. Until now, where they actually close the channel. So and when they close the channel, all the bumpers and the ferry stopped to come to this pier. And what they did was, they actually refurbished this pier, and they actually refurbished it into, now this place is called they refurbished it into a hotel. And as you can see, the arches inside the building actually looks quite impressive. And lastly, at the mouth of the Singapore River, we cannot forget the most iconic landmark, which is the Merlion. The Merlion is actually a marketing icon of Singapore, which has a lion head and a fish body. It is a national mascot, and it looks better when you see it at night with the lights of the city behind it. Basically, the Merlion is not a real mythical creature, but actually created for a marketing campaign in the 1970s. But that didn't stop it from being a national mascot of Singapore and well loved by everyone. Thank you for joining me for the first part of the Bridges of the Singapore River adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. There will be many parts more coming, So look out for it. Hit the thumbs up button if you like it, share and subscribe. And stay tuned for the next part or next episode. And bye bye.